Hello, my fellow randoms. I'm Kev Duffy, and welcome to this, our 13th episode of What's Your Random Podcast, where I discover and celebrate individual and independent. Are those two words? Is that a little too redundant? Let's try that another way. Hello, fellow randoms. I'm Kev Duffy, and welcome to this, our 13th episode of What's Your Random Podcast, where I discover and celebrate independent creativity from the inception of an idea to the process of bringing it to life. Is that better? Should we say independent and individual, or is independent enough? Let me know. I'm really curious. I feel like individual adds a layer of depth and specificity to describe my one-on-one encounters with creatives so far. And basically, on this podcast, we try to dive deep into the creative mind of an independent creative and learn about their process, how they generate ideas, and then how they follow through to bring those ideas into reality as something tangible that they can share with others. That's the point of our podcast here. If you're enjoying it, please subscribe on all of the podcast catchers out there, as well as YouTube, and leave a comment and give us a rating if you can, because those two things go a long way in helping to promote and give us some steam to push this engine forward. And nothing does that more than actually sharing your favorite episode. If you've listened to a few and you have a favorite, go ahead and share it. Okay, enough of that spiel, and on to my next spiel, which is basically after each episode concludes with my guest, I hang on for a little bit to talk about my key takeaways and areas where I think I could improve the podcast and my performance. So hang on tight for that after my guest hangs up. All spiels aside, joining me on What's Your Random Podcast today, I would like to introduce Matt Palmer, who is the creator of the Immortal Red Fox, a Tokusatsu-inspired comic and YouTube series. Tokusatsu is Japanese for special filming, as it translates directly, and basically it is the genre that started in the early filmmaking days. Moonlight Mask, I think, is probably really the OG Tokusatsu film, but for those of you who are not familiar with really obscure Japanese shows from I think that was from the 50s, you could correct me if I'm wrong. The genre encompasses everything from Godzilla and the special effects that help make that possible to Power Rangers, aka Super Sentai in Japan, and more recently has become synonymous with that hero genre. So it's a pretty broad term, but oftentimes used to describe specifically these Japanese hero shows, which have inspired an indie creative network online of people globally making their own hero shows, their own hero costumes and motifs, and stimulating this really interesting and fun global phenomenon that is indie tokusatsu. I met Matt first, and kind of indirectly just by sharing posts and liking posts on Indie Toku Revolution, which is an indie tokusatsu group on Facebook that I absolutely love. And, I got to know his project over the course of participating in that group, and learned about his project and was impressed by the consistency that he's displayed in pursuing his passion for tokusatsu through the Immortal Red Fox. And we talk about that project today. There were some internet connectivity hiccups along the way, but I think we did a pretty good job of picking up where we left off, and hopefully with a little bit of editing, it is relatively seamless. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation in general, as I do with all my guests, but this one holds a special place in my heart because it's a community that I am involved with, and whenever I open up my Facebook feed, I don't want to see anything other than Indie Toku Revolution. So shout out to all the folks who contribute there. Without further ado, sharing his random today is Matt Palmer. Enjoy the random. Yeah, we'll try to, sometimes there's a bit of a lag, so I'll do my best to not talk over you because you're going to be the star of the show. But yeah, go ahead and say what you were going to say.
Oh, I was just going to say, lead the way for me, please. Because
right.
I very rarely do this. So,
well, welcome to What's Your Random? My guest today is Matt Palmer, and he's the creator of Immortal, The Immortal Red Fox, which is a comic book as well as a YouTube series based on my beloved Tokusatsu genre. So welcome to the podcast, Matt. And if I did miss anything, any other forms of media that the Immortal Red Fox is on, feel free to say so.
no, you nailed it, Kevin. You nailed it, Kevin. And I appreciate the really nice intro. I really do. We both love Tokusatsu, and I think that's kind of how we met. You know what I mean? I think it was through some Facebook groups or something like that. So, but yeah, I do love this stuff. That's for sure. You can't see anything because we're using the camera on my computer. If I could turn my massive monitor, you'd be able to see a collection of years and years of memories in such a super cool genre that so many people love. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do see one helmet that, if I remember correctly, based on one of the groups that we both, the other way, yep. I think that's a recent helmet you made from scraps, if I remember the post correctly.
Yeah. He's actually a failed 3D print. And, I don't like to let anything go to waste. That's one thing, because, so if you notice, if you watch a lot of these shows and these movies and stuff, and one of the reasons I always love them is because you catch little things like that. You catch, oh, I recognize those shoulder pauldrons, or I recognize, this very, very close visual effect that's, it's reminiscent of this series or whatever. They do it throughout the years. If I remember correctly, I think in one of the very first Ultraman episodes, the Godzilla suit was repurposed and made into a villain.
Oh, really?
And everyone knew that it was Godzilla. It was pretty obvious. Now, you can't quote me on dates and stuff because I'm no expert, but I'm almost positive that happened in one of the very, very early Ultramans. And it's pretty funny. So yeah, that guy back there is made from a failed print of another suit that we were making. Actually, I can rotate the monitor slightly. There's a suit right there behind me on the mannequin that I'm working on now. It was the failed helmet print for that. So this thing is just stuff from the junk drawer. There's carpentry screws. There's real metal mesh in it. Took the grinder to it and roughed it up and gave them teeth. I wanted it to have this, I don't know, definitely a bad guy. That's one thing I can say for sure. But yeah, and I think that one of the things I appreciate the most about all of this is it's such a mixed media, because there's, even in the independent scene, there's artists for it. There's craft makers, there's memorabilia, custom memorabilia makers. They all approach it a different way, which I find to be just incredibly cool and very very studio art feel, very open community vibe, sitting around working on stuff over a long period of time as a group kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'm excited to dig deeper into your process and collaboration and the start of the project. Before we get there, to introduce to the audience what Tokusatsu is, maybe. So What's Your Random is a podcast for creatives of all likes. So far, I've had some filmmakers, some comic book artists, comic book writers, a board game creator. So it's not specific to the Tokusatsu genre, but I think that, like you said, as a multimedia and mixed media, genre, it's very ripe for collaboration across all creative spaces. So what's your
Yep.
personal definition of tokusatsu?
So by definition, tokusatsu means special filming, right? And that goes into practical effects, the use of suits and props, and they're widely found and originate from hero shows and movies like Godzilla and things like that. And a lot of it's geared for children, but the thing that comes from it for me, if I could describe it in one word, would be natsukashi. And natsukashi is a Japanese word for it taking you back. It takes you back through a journey throughout your own life. And as people enjoy this genre, not all of them are creatives. Some of them are just collectors and things like that. But for the people who are creative and do stuff for this genre, I'm in total agreement with you. The possibilities get pretty endless. So,
Yeah,
but that's what it is for me. It takes you back to your childhood, and it's something that gets passed to kids and nieces and nephews, and I think it's rad, man. I really do. I just think it's super cool. So,
yeah,
and I got it from I got it from my stepdad. So, yeah.
What did he introduce to you first? What was your breaking into tokusatsu?
The Godzilla movies for sure. And he liked, I don't know if you remember this show called Thunderbirds.
Mm-hmm.
It had puppets. And so it was stuff like that and Fireball XL5 and Supercar and some of these like action shows for American kids during that time when he was a kid. And that led on to some of the Japanese stuff, like Johnny Sacco and his flying robot, which is just such a ridiculously crazy tokusatsu children's show that Americans got to see. And you can watch it now. It's available on Shout Factory, I believe. And it's hilarious. And I started to love that stuff. And then of course, the American audience now is most widely familiar with Hasbro's Power Rangers.
Right. Yeah. And so anybody out there who's wondering if they've ever encountered tokusatsu, it probably is via Power Rangers, which if you think of the explosions and things like that, I think that's what makes it tokusatsu originally. And the tokusatsu term now is a blanket term used more generally to cover those Japanese hero shows, even if they are not using practical effects, which were traditionally what tokusatsu actually referred to. I'm also a huge fan of the genre, and like you said, we met via Indie Toku Revolution, a creators group for independent tokusatsu creators.
It's a super fun group.
Yeah, it's the one that I actually look forward to every time I log into Facebook, seeing what everybody is up to, even if I'm not actively creating all that much myself. You are quite active and prolific in terms of what you're producing and your quantity. I think you have a good cadence of consistency of output, which is hard for people in the indie genre. So let's set the stage for a lot of other random questions, maybe by introducing your project in general, and maybe a start to where you are now type introduction. Sure.
So the Immortal Red Fox started back in late 2016, early 2017, through one of the first friends that I had made after moving to Texas from. I am from New York and have grown up in New York.
Where in New York?
And
New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm from a small lake town called Mayapack, New York.
Oh, I'm from Portchester, which we're in the same. Mayapac's still Westchester, right?
Putnam, but yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. So
I
we're
I I worked in White Plains and stuff like that. So, but anyway, when I first moved here, um, I my friend and now business partner, her name is Archer. She goes by Archer anyway. I had introduced her to the Super Sentai genre because her nephew, Jackson, really cute kid. He's a goofball, but we had introduced him to Super Sentai because he was very into Power Rangers and things like that. He was in that perfect 4 to 8 age range where, like, kids want to see explosions and karate and stuff, right? So anyway, we wound up watching Gokaiger, and it it blew her mind just as much as it blew the kids' mind too. So I had shown her Gokaiger, and it blew their minds, both of them, right? And we had always talked about doing a comic together because we both shared a love for comic books of all different kinds, including manga. And then, of course, there's the anime deep dive, depending on what the individual likes, right? So we had a rough idea. We knew that we wanted tokusatsu elements because they're hilarious and tropey and really, really campy and goofy, and then moved on to, okay, how do we make it relatable to not the 6 to 11 age demographic? This is for fans like us, and I say that term super, super loosely. Like, there's so many different things as a comic book reader and a tokusatsu fan that you can appreciate, and some stuff flies over people's heads because they don't know that, this is a nod to, whatever. Do that all the time, in the writing, at least. And as as you and I have had the discussion, I'm not a comic book artist. I rely on much more capable and talented people to go and help realize the vision in that way and in that media. Whereas the live action stuff and the marketing and how do we present our characters and what it is that our group does, that's kind of what we handle. So
yeah. So specifically for you, what do you handle? Do you do and how did the collaboration take place? Because I don't know specifically, but I get the general sense that it's a international collaborative
yeah,
project. And you could correct me if I'm wrong. And what hats do you wear in that collaboration? And then what role do you have, if any, to I assume you bring those collaborators together and organize
right.
the project and stuff.
So there's there's a lot of hats, I guess. So I'm kind of an art director, meaning that, I try to ensure the fact that the character looks the way he's supposed to look, the way I basically designed him, across all media. And I oversee the live action. I have to approve everything, you know what I mean, to make sure that it's the way we need it to be. And there's when you're in that position, you kind of the bottleneck is always a problem in art, right? Especially in comics and content creation. I know you said it's like, oh wow, you seem like you have a great, flow of content coming out, and I appreciate that. because you very rarely get these sighs of relief when making stuff. You know what I mean? While it's there's a certain catharsis to it all, you sometimes don't end up with the satisfaction that you're looking for, especially in times like these. We don't have conventions and ways for the fans to come together as much anymore, at least for right now. But what I do try to accomplish is keep what are now my friends in this community, keep them creating, keep them making stuff. And, we use the Tokusatsu element of, everyone is the hero in their own story. And for everybody who is out there making stuff in this independent Tokusatsu revolution, right, that we talked about, everybody has that kind of hero mindset, right, where they want to do something really, really good. I appreciate that. I think that that's a really cool thing, because when we started doing this, I didn't know where it was going. You know what I mean? I knew I wanted to make a cool, pulpy, very punk rock, indie style book that had, definitely been cut from the same cloth as things like Beautiful Joe. And you know what I mean? Because I found it funny. I got it. And I felt like the person who made that understood my feelings towards Tokusatsu, especially seeing it in this cell shaded comic book style format. That was my first exposure. That and maybe one or two other things as far as seeing stuff similar to Red Fox in any way.
Right. So is most of your audience, you initially engage with them at Comic-Cons and other conferences of, comic culture and anime culture?
Yeah. I mean, the first experience we ever had was for Free Comic Book Day. And we did it through a store called Kinokuniya Books. And this is on the posters behind me. Let me see what the date was. This one was 2018. So, it took like 2 years to get everything ready to go to even show people. That's why I say this started back at the end of 2016.
16, right?
And that was the first experience, where we got a small little anime, and manga crowd. And there were 2 or 3 Ultraman fans. We sold out of all of our books. So I was like, that's a good sign. We brought the suit actor, Robert Guy. It was his first outing in the first professionally made suit we had. And it was great. And then we did Power Morphicon Express a year later, where we had plenty of time to prepare. And that was a rousing success for us. And as time went on, we did a handful of other appearances. One was in San Antonio for More Phenomenal Expo, I think it was called. So yeah, a lot of Power Ranger conventions, because we know we're going to find the right people there. And with the way COVID-19 has affected everything, we've had to kind of, drop back down into third gear and kind of reassess where we're at. Because right now I'm sitting on a massive backlog of content, and I can't get it out fast enough. That's why I talk about the bottleneck.
Right. And bottleneck specifically because of producing the content and finishing it. What do you have exactly that you're sitting on? The stories written or?
Yeah. I mean, so we currently have 3 books in various stages of completion. So we're already at the point where they're written, drawn, inked, toned, colored, and lettered, ready to go. Plus, the introduction of more new characters, a big shoot coming up that, to go and promote more of that stuff. There's action figures being made. There's all sorts of stuff, and it's just like, I'm waiting because I still have, probably 3 more episodes left of season 1 to put out. But I don't go and rush them because I want to ensure that everybody who has watched the previous 4 or 5 episodes, which is a handful, it's about 2,500 people that we are connected with, and those are the people that buy the books and the show. So wait for them to go and all watch it. And I go by watching the plays and the algorithms and trying to change things up a little bit. And I wonder, when is going to be the next big time that I can go and reveal a bunch of stuff, which is hopefully on a convention somewhere. I'm hoping that Power Morphicon in California in June this year actually happens. I think that the people who run that show are awesome. I have no doubt in their ability to pull off an amazing show and keep vendors and patrons and guests incredibly satisfied. I just wonder if it's going to be a good time for me. You know what I mean? I work in healthcare, so I have to be super careful.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
That further complicates an already complicated time.
Right. But, as somebody who wants to get the content out there, I'm sure there's ways to figure it out to get around it, but I just haven't gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear and maybe realize that for an indie content creator, producer, that the in-person promotion, in-person meetings with fans seems to be, the most important, despite the day and age we live in, where the internet is taking over so many other spaces and ways to connect with people.
Right. And I think that, we're going to get past all of this, right? Where we are going to be able to go and do shows again. And I think it's going to be a lot better because now, since that was a story from 2018, let's fast forward to what 2020 actually looks like, as far as this community, and what it's become. A lot of guys are really ramping up their content creation, which is great. So maybe I don't have to rush as much. Some of the other guys get an opportunity to go and drop some new stuff. You know what I mean? And there's a bunch of them out there.
Yeah. And in our group, the Indie Tokusatsu Revolution or Indie Toku Revolution, it's grown so quickly over the last couple of years, and maybe in particular the last year. And to see everybody producing, people are making their own costumes, filming their own shoots with fight scenes and whatnot. And it's really cool. And it's kind of, for me, is invigorating to see Tokusatsu being filmed like Tokusatsu was originally filmed.
Right.
So it's really cool and always motivating.
It's pretty cool how it's trying so hard to come full circle. You know what I mean? It really is. I think what's also really cool about it all is how Japanese local heroes are now being noticed more throughout this community of creatives as well. But yeah, I think that, with the whole movement of creatives and stuff that we've seen since we started doing Red Fox, is super cool. It's one of the most cool things about my life, at least, is that I get to go and do the same thing that you do, which is jump into that group, or peruse Instagram and see what other people are making too. I think it's pretty awesome. It's its own little cool corner of not cool kids, but you know what I mean?
I think we're pretty damn cool.
I think we're pretty cool. Yeah. But yeah.
So when you're writing the story, can you give me a timeline of the comic and the YouTube series? And
Mm-hmm.
I started to get kind of the feeling and impression that the YouTube series is great, but the bulk of the story is in the comic. So are you more using the YouTube series to promote the comic, or, what's the order and the sequence of events, and how do you see the two working together?
So the way it works is basically you've read the books, right?
Yeah, they're great, by the way. Really fun.
So the first book, which I have my proof copy here, is his first day. It's just his first day, and then the live action series takes place after that, and the events that happen in the first half of the live action series is what's going on between volume 2 and, so they work together. And then the second half is volume 3 and the live action series working together. So that's the other thing that we're planning to do is I told you I'm sitting on 3 episodes of season 1 still. And now people have, I think are pretty up to date. So now we're going to introduce, the second arc of that first season. And then once everybody sees that, then I can, figure out the release schedule of everything else. So.
Yeah. And I noticed when I was watching the videos that they were getting incrementally longer by about a minute each. Is that intentional? And are you foreseeing, the future releases being longer?
So as far as with season 1, what I really thought would be super fun, because, we haven't had conventions and we haven't had, places for people to go and ask questions about their hero, stuff and, pick up, a print that you can only get, you know what I mean? What I was thinking would be really cool would be to do kind of like a online premiere party.
Oh yeah.
And do the last 3 episodes as kind of a playthrough special. You know what I mean?
Like a community watch together kind of thing.
Right. And just do the last 3 episodes as one long, piece. And have it play like the yearly Super Sentai or Kamen Rider movie specials. You know what I mean? And include some sort of exclusive promotion and, maybe a really cool print. Because there's if I just went into the artwork that we have throughout the years, it's an obscene amount. Kevin. It's obscene. I have seen this character drawn every which way, which is amazing because they're all Red Fox. It's, just like, Spider-Man when you see Spider-Man, Batman when you see Batman. And not that he's akin to either, but you know what I mean? It's
he's easily recognizable in, even given the specific touch of each artist that draws him.
Right. So, I'd like to do something, because I like doing stuff for the people who like this stuff, and then I told you, like, there's so much stuff that I have planned that we're sitting on that, I just need to figure out the right time for the release schedule. But the 2021 aspirations are pretty high.
Yeah. And hopefully things clear up and it becomes a little bit easier to put your plans into, put your plans to work.
I mean, even if I have to go, and find another way, outside of conventions and the the formal get together, as it were, right? We'll figure it out, because one of the things about this is it's still so much fun to do. You know what I mean? A lot of people have artist headaches and hang-ups. We all do. But as creatives, it's kind of our duty to go and recognize the enjoyment that you get out of it and appreciate it as much as possible. So like I've said before in the past, if it continues to stay fun, it's going to be immortal one way or the other.
I like that. And that's something I touched on with other guests, is I myself personally sometimes forget to enjoy the process, and I get bogged down because I want to see the end result. I want to see people enjoying, right, or, at least responding in some way to whatever it is I want to produce. And I forget to, enjoy the actual production. Right. It's a huge part.
Yeah. If the process itself, you have to enjoy it. My wife, who I love very, very dearly, sees me working 12-hour days and then putting in, 3 hours a night at least into this production. And, it's not like there's this huge monetary reason that I do it. The reasoning behind it is makes me happy. It makes the people around me who get to participate happy. Plus I think it's really freaking cool.
How did you decide to take the leap? Because, pursuing and deciding to jump into a project and knowing the amount of work that's going to go into it, sometimes that's prevents people from, going through with a project. So I wonder if were any questions like that, like, it's pretty ambitious. Maybe it's going to take too much time, or anything like that. When you guys first decided to jump in?
No, man. No, I have a I like to conquer fear. I kind of always have. Okay. And I've always been a creative person as well. So it didn't scare me in that way. It really didn't. And I know that that's not for, as creative people, we have to do what works for us. But at the same time, if the voice in your head is telling you you can't do something versus, hey, this isn't a really good idea right now, those are two different things. I think that people will see how much work goes into it, and some people will be addicted to it, like I am. Where I get the catharsis from it, because it's the genre itself is attached to so many great memories. And I think that other people will prefer to just be fans and just, hang in the back. And that's cool too. Because it's, we have to also remember with at least with the independent tokusatsu stuff, this is made by fans for fans. As far as anybody wanting to be a creative, you have to do what works for you, whether you want to make a video game or, weave baskets or, I don't know, make artisan cheeses. I don't know, whatever. You know what I mean? Right. So you have to do what works for you in the process.
Yeah. And I guess you kind of heeded the call. The call for you was this fire that started igniting and burning bright to make your own hero. And
Yeah.
was Red Fox specifically always an idea you had in your back pocket? Like,
No,
what's
I
the
wouldn't.
genesis of the character? Did you guys
Um,
after that fateful day with Jackson, were you guys flirting around with Red Fox or blue
well, we
pink flamingo or
Big Flamingo. That's pretty cool. I would pay. I would pay to see that. Castanets.
future
Um,
character?
right. Um, so Red, is my the majority of heroes throughout the genre. Red was always my favorite throughout all the different shows, and so I knew I liked Red. And as far as the theme and everything around it, when we went to Japan, there's a place called the Inari Taisha Shrine, and it's beautiful. There are kitsune statues, guardian kitsune statues everywhere. Hundreds upon hundreds of red or orange torii gates leading up a pathway. It's beautiful. It's in Kyoto, Japan, or is it Nara? I can't remember. Anyway, that was one of the times that we were like, there's so much lore to explore here. That's where we kind of, and everybody knows kitsune. It's probably the most, popular yokai in American culture, right? That and the Hanya mask, which is an oni with the big horns and stuff. And some of the stories, and the mythology behind it, I found to be really, really interesting because the character base of your kitsune is like they're tricksters and they can shapeshift, and there basically are no rules. And then as far as the immortality thing, I really thought it would be great to get the Groundhog Day approach on a Henshin hero's first day on duty. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
definitely. So
yeah,
you were working with those key elements and they just kind of came to
yeah,
you, and then that's really the basis for the story and what you're working on. And how do
yeah,
you mentioned that you have like you're sitting on just piles and piles of original artwork over
yeah.
the last 4 or going on 5 years, I guess, at this point. Do you commission some art? Do fans just send you art? And how do you work to establish that library as well as to work collaboratively for the production of both the web series and the comic?
So as far as the workflow goes and the artwork, I will commission. Uh, I have a handful of artists that, like, when I know I need something, or I know I would like to see the character like this, or I need concept artwork based on reference and my very, very rudimentary thumbnails. I am able to go and handpick from the people that I've been working with for the last couple of years doing these projects. So, if I need a logo or something like that, or I've even used the artists that we use for our print media stuff, you know, for custom decal designs for our costumes and weapons. And, it's kind of all become one thing because there are guys and gals who are, closer to the comic books, and then there's the group of artists who do, who are right in the middle, who do the concept artwork and things like that. I go and I can say, if I need a design that I know is going to need to go to 3D printing for production purposes or 3D modeling for video purposes, I go that way. So it's nice to have a little bullpen of people that I can go to. And now hi doggy.
Yeah.
The art.
Today's one of those days, I guess. Sorry,
But yeah, it's fine, buddy. It's fine. That's how, the little workflow goes as far as that. And then it branches off, to whether it's suit production or this, the same, one of the artists, he goes by Washi Washoy on Instagram. He's done everything from cover artwork for us to individual promotional element artwork to logo design to I'm working on a suit right now that has 5 different collaborators on it, which is pretty awesome. Between Washi, the people at Carbon Panther Props, the people at Uncle Hulk, Abinara, and myself are all working on this one specific character suit. And everybody has a hand in a piece, which is really, really cool. And that's the first time we're really ever doing that. Where the artist will start off with what the base model of one piece of the costume looks like, and then we'll design custom decals to go along with it. And then Uncle Hulk collaborates in the way of we find a suit in inventory that works best for us, for what we need it for on film. And then Abinara, who's such an incredible artist, contributes by providing us with very, very high quality yet affordable foam helmets, props.
Eva foam or?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So the helmets we use, while they look like they're fiberglass, they are not. We do have a handful of ones that are 3D printed, but the majority of the helmets that we use for safety and economics and general wear and tear are foam helmets, which I don't know if a lot of people know that or not.
That's cool.
But since I shared that information in the last couple of weeks, everybody's telling me, I went to Abinara now. I'm going to Abinara. So that's great. Abi, if you ever end up listening to this, you owe me a helmet or something, man.
And how did you go ahead?
Brought him like 6 new customers in a week. So
how do you go about finding all of the artists who did the covers of the comic, the interiors of the comic, and the suit?
It really is just it's like going. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's like going fishing at first. You don't know who's going to respond to that cold call style email. You know what I mean? And luckily, I don't have to with that so much right now. But in the beginning, a lot of it was luck. I felt like trying to find the right people, and now, not that we're necessarily spoiled for choice, but we do have people that we know this is what they're going to be strong for us for. Plus, this is the style that they like to work in, and this, that, and the other thing. So, but yeah, it's fun trying to figure out how all the moving parts work.
Right, and how they all fit together, or how you fit them together, because somebody at the end of that day has to corral all of the ideas and all the pieces into one seamless project.
Ooh, seamless. I don't know if I want to throw that word around like it's meaningless. But Yeah, we do the best we can. That's for sure.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
do the best we can.
if you release something out into the world, and you know each episode is its own seamless the result of putting it all together.
Yeah. So,
Um, cool.
but yeah, we really do enjoy doing it, and I think, like I said before, 2021, we've got some good plans to go and release some really, really cool stuff. So I hope people continue to look forward to it. And we're going to continue to make stuff and make even better stuff. I think that's another really important part of just being a creative, but specifically in this genre that people are trying to nurture and help grow and have a good time at the same time. So,
Yeah. And speaking of the genre, what's your favorite Super Sentai? What's your favorite Kamen Rider
okay.
series in the whole bunch of those two?
And the whole bunch of those two.
Well, I guess one for each.
One for each. So probably my favorite to go and rewatch. I have a tie for Super Sentai, and they are actually all available on Shout Factory. One is number one is Chojin Sentai Jetman.
Yes.
Which didn't get an American adaptation, and I'm just fine with that because it is like a beautiful fine wine. It just gets better and better every time I watch it, and I absolutely love it. And then that's tied with Ninja Sentai Kaku Ranger. I've always enjoyed that show because I was a child of the '80s ninja boom, and in that wonderful program, we have ties to Sho Kasugi from Enter the Ninja, and his son Kane plays Jiraiya, the Black Ninja Ranger. So those are my two favorite Super Sentai. And as far as Kamen Rider, in recent times, my number one has got to be Kamen Rider Build. Sorry, I'm knocking pencils over.
That's okay.
Kamen Rider Build was incredibly well done. And it goes to show that even though you might not like the aesthetics at first, when you have a really powerful writing team to make a compelling story, it's surprising. That show does not feel like it's for children. And if it is for children, it's on the mature side of things, because there are a lot of concepts in that show about war and division that I find to be very, very interesting. I just love the look of the show, though, aesthetically too. It very, very much grew on me through over watching. I think it's like 40 something episodes. So yeah, those are my two favorites. Yeah, and then there's just such a huge list of cinema titles as well.
What do you like from Showa era Kamen Rider?
Showa
if you have a favorite before the reboot that happened with Kuga.
Okay, let me.
So I guess from Black RX to anything prior.
Let's see, Black RX and prior. I'm whipping out my encyclopedia here. I would say, I was a little bit familiar with Kamen Rider Black, because occasionally, very, very occasionally, and I don't know how this is possible because I was a child, but we would get Japanese television in New York, and it might have been through a Hawaiian affiliate.
Yeah, I think
Of some kind. And where there used to be Chambara movies, and when I say Chambara, that's onomatopoeia for the sound that swords make when they clash in samurai movies. Chambara. So, and that's where I remember seeing Kamen Rider Black for the first time. I knew it wasn't, this is before Power Rangers in rerun format. So yeah, he's one of my favorites. And then I liked Black RX, as the Masked Rider version is not very good, but I still watched it.
Yeah, right. So for those listening who don't know, Saban brought over the only Masked Rider or Kamen Rider series to be regurgitated, maybe is a word.
Well,
Regurgitated.
we had
We did
Dragon
have
Knight.
Ryuki. Yeah. It was the
Yeah,
first, though, I guess.
yeah, it was the
That
first
I know
one.
of.
I watched a couple of episodes of Dragon Knight. I actually think when I watched it, it was not for me. Now, that's not to say that it is not incredibly well done, because it is. But it was too mature for me at the time. I wasn't used to seeing guys and gals who weren't these goody two-shoe high school kids.
Like Saved by the Bell, but turning
but superheroes.
into superheroes.
Right. These guys, it had a much darker tone. And I don't know if just, the kid in me was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm not into it. I think it was a maturity level thing. I don't think I was ready for it. But that program now and Kamen Rider Ryuki also are both incredibly well done programs. I'm hoping that we actually get Dragon Knight on Blu-ray or something like that, because I would love to watch it, cover to cover, if you will, again.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And to kind of build upon your point of liking Build because it had some, deeper themes that may have been lost on the target audience of children.
Yeah, 6 to 11.
Yeah, I feel the same way when I watch the show. Sometimes I question why I like them. I'm a Kamen Rider fan for the most part, but I would say that Jetman is also my favorite Super Sentai series, if not for anything else, because of the really well developed love triangle in the show. That's just like
poor guy. Poor guy, man. He is such a G. I love it. Like, if I could be any hero out of all of them, I would be him. I would be Black Condor all the way, and not in the suit, just playing saxophone, smoking, bleeding to death on a park bench.
That show is like, it put Super Sentai on the map for me for sure, and then I was able to enjoy Bioman. Is it Bioman? And
Bioman's great too.
Yeah,
Bioman's great.
But I similarly feel that with Tokusatsu, specifically the hero Tokusatsu shows, there's some beauty in their simplicity, and they find a way to tell a story oftentimes about deeper themes than their target audience will be able to pick up on. And that's why I think, at least speaking for myself, I still watch children's shows from Japan.
Oh, hell yeah. Because this is the thing. You have to remember that even though the show is meant for children, it's made by very talented adults.
Right.
You know what I mean? Who've been doing this stuff for years. And their level of, craftsmanship in the pursuit of what is an art form in my eyes, Tokusatsu, I think is just absolutely incredible. And that's one of the things that I appreciate the most. I don't, 9 times out of 10, if I'm watching a Tokusatsu program, I don't care if it's goofy. I like that. I don't care
the
if in some of
is part of it.
Right. But you also, you could have the goofiest show, like take Kamen Rider X-Aid. Okay. Not a fan. Not a fan. They're doctors who play video games. No way. No way.
And somehow are superheroes.
Right.
Time.
I've known many doctors, and none of them bring their Switch to work. You know what I mean? So, but at the same time, you're like, this is really goofy, but then you go and you look at the craftsmanship and whatever beautiful brain thought of the idea for the look of some of these suits. And the same thing goes with stuff like Forze. I think Forze is goofy as hell looking at first, and then you're like, oh wow, He's a
Yeah.
space shuttle.
Yeah.
He's a
Talk
space
about a
shuttle.
costume that built on me.
Yeah, with rockets and all sorts of cool stuff. No wonder kids like it. It's super cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
And the one thing I really love in particular about Kamen Rider is their ability to maintain core elements of design, but then at the same time still have a totally unique, independent, original design for,
right.
however many it probably is in the 20s or 30s now of incarnations and reincarnations of the hero.
Yeah.
And
The,
it's
the good old
different than
karate bug man.
yeah, it's different than Batman, who's always Batman. Every season of the Kamen Rider show, as well as the Super Sentai shows, is
They're
full
standalone, really.
standalone series. There you go. Yeah, that's where I was looking for, a standalone series. So they have to create a totally new character every time, and
Yeah, and a
somehow
whole
they
new world.
maintain core elements. So that somehow they're all related in a very discernible way, but at the same time they stand alone on their own 2 feet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we're going to see this new era that we're heading into. The shows are going to change because even at the professional level, the production methods will inevitably change. I noticed in the first few episodes now, I have not watched, what's the newest one called? Kamen Rider, something with swords. Saber?
Yeah, I haven't followed recently in more recent years
Yeah,
as closely as I used to.
Whatever the newest one is, the first couple of episodes, they use a lot of green screen and a lot of composites and stuff like that. I was like, wow, they weren't outside for any of this. You know what I mean? But I do still have high hopes for both of those brands to go and continue to make really, really cool stuff, because the artists behind them are freaking genius, man. They're genius. I can only aspire to go and do something even that like dips a toe in the water, something like that.
Do you have a pie in the sky aspiration of your own in terms of where the ultimate goal of Red Fox?
I don't know.
Is that too much of a loaded question?
I would love to go and make my biggest goal right now. I want to go and make I don't know if I should talk about it, but I do want to go and make a big kind of Tyson movie, like an indie hero Tyson movie. And I would start small and try to kickstart the full-fledged production, but I would have to do the proof of concept first. And as far as the pie in the sky,
and if Tyson is not the pie in the sky, because a Tyson is like a super battle movie, essentially, in this genre. So that would be a really big project. And it's awesome that you have your aspirations on that, because that would be really exciting to see. Well, but what would your pie in the sky be?
My pie in the sky would be able to, to be able to do this full time. You know what I mean? To have somebody say, hey, this is a cool idea, we want to help you make it. You know what I mean? But nobody's going to do that either. You know what I mean? I'm going to have to go and continue to evolve and go and hammer away and make it happen, because that's kind of what you have to do. Do it.
Yeah. And I appreciate that you hesitated to say it at first, but then you uttered the words. And, sometimes it's hard to say to put into words our true aspirations, because it seems bigger than us, but maybe this is your first step. You gotta start somewhere, and you've already started, and that's more than a lot of people could say. And you're continuously pursuing it, and you're keeping with it, and you're consistently producing content and developing not only the idea and the story, but also how you tell that story and engage with fans and prospective fans. So I think it's cool that you took the leap and you said it and you shared it with me. and anybody
Thanks,
listening.
man. Thanks. I want to continue to, and I want to continue to strive to be better at what we do. We, you know, we talk about it pretty regularly about, you know, like we should try this next, or you know what I mean, and try and find new ways to film things and new ways to get the content to people. But it's just a process. It's just a process. It's still fun. That's you know, if it continues to be fun, I'll be an indie creator forever. I don't care. I don't care, man. Because every day somebody tells me, "Hey, man, this is fucking awesome." Sorry for cursing, but
No, that's okay. You can curse all you want.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every day, at least one person tells me this is fucking awesome. And if we did that for that one person that one day, good enough for me.
I like that. Well,
You know?
I mean, that's a perfect place to sign off. But if you have anything else more you'd like to explore, there's no time, there's no cutoff time for us here at What's Your Random. We could go in any and all direction that you might want to chat about. But yeah, to hear that you get that kind of feedback is well deserved, and also really motivating, I'm sure, for, you know, people in these indie tokusatsu groups, people in indie creative groups at large, and people in general who are, you know, aspiring to put something out there in the universe.
Yeah. And I mean, I think when, you know, you ask me what the, you know, pie in the sky end result, you know, aspiration is, it's kind of already happening, because it's one little project that now there's, you know, 5 or 6 projects out there that are very similar, you know, in ways where we all want to come together and work together and do stuff. I think it's really, really cool. I think it's really, really cool. And I couldn't really ask for anything more than that, to be honest.
Right. Yeah. Pie in the sky is doing it, and you're consistently doing it. So
yeah. But yeah, and as far as everything else, look forward to a lot more stuff coming in 2021 from us. As I said before, I'm just figuring out when to go and release certain things, but we will probably go and make some announcements, you know, right after Christmas time as to what we're going to be up to and when, so people can be a little bit more interactive with us. And if there are those of you out there who haven't heard of us before, go and watch episodes 1 through 5 on our YouTube channel at the Immortal Red Fox. And if you guys leave a comment on each video and send the hashtag clean hands open hearts over to the immortalredfox@gmail.com, I will send you a free digital PDF copy of volume 1. And it's kind of our little promotion that we're doing to go hand in hand with COVID-19 awareness. So
very, very cool. And I will say, having read the 3 volumes that are out, that it'll be worth your effort to just make a comment and shoot an email to be able to read the first issue, and then it'll leave you wanting for more. And luckily for you, there are 2 more. So watch the videos, make the comments, get the comics. And Matt, we had a couple of starts and stops today, but I think that this was a really good one, and it's a area of creativity and creative community on the internet that I'm to some degree intimately a part of, and a genre that I dearly love. So on a personal level, I mean, these podcasts are always personal, but on an even more deeper personal level, I really enjoyed the chat. And let's connect again next time, and we'll make sure we have smoother transition and smoother internet to communicate on, so that we could really get deep into a flow state of communication. And,
yeah, I'm here. I'm here for it. I had a great time, Kevin. So anytime you want to get together and talk about the trials and tribulations of Black Condor, or why, you know, why the city in Mechanical Violator Hokkaido is called Jesus Town, I'm more than happy to come back and talk with you about Tokusatsu.
Cool. And we didn't even dive into any of the standalone movies that you mentioned loving. So let's save that for next time. And,
you got it, buddy.
And I'll look forward to it. Let me know when you want to come on, and if you want to talk about promoting, the release of those, especially if you're going to release those 3 episodes all together for a community watch. Maybe this could be a good lead into that.
I think that'd be really, really cool.
Cool. All right, Matt. Well, thank you again for joining me. And until next time, I ask you and anybody listening out there to enjoy your random. Thanks. Thanks. All right, Matt. Hello, my fellow randoms and newly inducted Tokusatsu fans. If you didn't know what Tokusatsu was before this episode, you certainly know what it is now, and I hope you check out Matt's project, the Immortal Red Fox. The comics are great, and the YouTube is just as fun, and they really work synergistically together. And I really appreciate Matt's multimedia approach to this project, and I think it will give it legs as it continues to grow. I know he's an inspiration for me, taking part in the group that he is active in on Facebook. I'm certainly sure that he inspires a bunch of others in the group to continue to pursue their random tokusatsu projects. And that was something I wanted to highlight by having Matt on this episode. It was to, highlight some more of these really niche communities on Facebook, online, where people could come together, synergize, hopefully resonate off of each other, that, hey, there's other people out there who want to create something as specific as an independent tokusatsu hero project and comic project. And by seeing other people pursuing something similar to what you're pursuing, you can learn from each other, learn from all of the processes, but also hopefully motivate each other that, hey, he's doing it, I could do it too. I think Matt certainly helps to motivate a lot of people on that group. Key takeaways today are basically that I had never spoken with Matt before, other than maybe commenting on each other's posts here and there. So it was pretty cool to have a conversation face to face, albeit over the internet, with somebody who I had, had passing online relationship with. It was pretty cool to connect in person, even though we're not in person. Still struggling to talk about communicating with people over the internet when you're actually speaking to them face to face over the internet. So that's my key takeaway, is just it was a blast. And I was able to, ask a little bit deeper, more specific questions, since it's an area that I know more about. In terms of improving the podcast, I'm not sure what was going on with the internet, if it was me or if it was Matt. So definitely going to investigate that. But for the future, having and relying on internet connections to connect us is not the best case scenario. But it is the world in which we live. And really, I think I'm always going to be doing my interviews over the internet. So having a strategy for what to do when connection is lost, how to re-engage with my guests once we reconnect, if there's a significant lag in between when we lost a connection and pick it back up, trying to come back into the conversation with the same energy. So I'm definitely thinking about strategies to do that, to bring my level of energy and maintain my level of energy so that the conversation hopefully picks up where it left off. And also making sure that I have the right, maintain the framework for where we were in the conversation, the last words that my guest said, the topic at hand, so that I could refresh our memory and we could continue on the conversation as seamlessly as possible. So that is one of the takeaways and one of the things I'm going to think about moving forward. How about you, my fellow randoms? I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. I wonder what your key takeaways are, and I wonder what your random is. So holler at us at What's Your Random on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and anywhere you can find us. Make comments on this video on YouTube. And until next time, really just get out there and enjoy the random and enjoy your random, because I'm sure it is specific to you. Enjoy.